What's up, captains? Welcome back to the other decks. My name is Ryan, and you probably already noticed, but we have some new cards that are banned from the meta starting November 10th. But in case you didn't know, Nami, Dadan, and Whitebeard have been outright banned, and OP03 Marco has been restricted to 1. Now, we can all see which leader was the most hurt by this. No, don't just ignore this tweet by me that I made right when it was announced, but instead of looking at what we lost, let's see what we gained. And I think that one of the biggest and most obvious winners is Big Mom. And yeah, by extent, Katakuri. But as a Big Mom player, I had to mention her first, put some shine on that name. But yeah, I think Katakuri really struggled against Law, as there wasn't a whole lot of ways to remove some of the key pieces of that deck. So now I think the door is wide open for it to have better showings in tournaments. But I have seen a lot of takes calling this like a tier 0 deck, and I do have to disagree with that. I think a lot of other decks in the list that I'm going to present, as well as some of the decks we've seen in the meta currently, do have solid chances against it. And as for the Big Mom piece, I do think that both decks rise, but you know, if Katakuri started like right here and Big Mom was right here, I do think that it kind of goes up sort of like this, right? Yeah, sure, she is still a slightly weaker leader than Katakuri, but the ability to set up your life is a little bit safer now because there's just less aggro around. Another leader that jumps up is Blue Crocodile. With access to some of the best removal in the game, it can get rid of a lot of those annoying characters, all while setting up, defenses, allowing you to poke throughout the match. And while the main issue of Crocodile needing to draw into that removal still is a bit of an issue, you do have a little bit more time to set it up. Now, I was talking about this on Twitter, but I do think that aggro players are going to need something to kind of fill that void that these bans left. And if you can't spam searches, the next best thing you can do is spam bodies, right? So I do think the decks that can cheat out other characters for pretty cheap, if not for free, might see a rise in usage. In my tweet, I actually mentioned a couple of pretty good candidates in my post, but the immediate ones that kind of come to mind are anything that runs the film package, so Green Purple Dofi, as well as Green Kid. Blue Dofi, I think, is also a good candidate, or even Kinemon. Now, obviously this analysis isn't perfect because those decks do have some holes in them, some weaknesses, but I think opponents are going to have to find creative ways to get rid of all of those characters. Multi-attackers also fit into this mold with the new search for aggro. Kid was already mentioned, but Kuro actually looks to be another surprise candidate, as well as Lucci. Last but not least, and maybe this is kind of like my jank brain going off the rails a bit, but do these bans make Vivi and Red Green Luffy better? Like, listen, Red still has access to some really powerful cards, it's just you can't find them currently. But Vivi's ability to draw cards is solid, as well as her ability to scry the top of the deck with Blocker Dofi. And Red Green Luffy, while still an expensive ability, can have some fun multi-swing turns. And don't get me wrong, I know I rattled off a bunch of options here, but I still think that Zoro and Law players are going to find new, interesting builds to use for their tournaments. I know there's already a ton of people who are testing the film package in the Law deck, and I do know that there was like a mid-range Zoro that was going around for a little bit that was picking up steam. Maybe we see that again. But what do you think? Who do you think are the biggest winners and the biggest losers of the ban? And what impact do you think that this ban list is going to have on the new Starter Deck 10, aka the 3 Captains Ultimate deck that now features alternate art reprints of a banned card? Let me know in the comments below.